Welcome to the Three Artmigos with Ed Swarez, Adrian Webb, and Paula Telizyn, where we talk about having an art business in 2026, what it means to be an artist, and more. Today, we're going to talk about artist bios, about how you write about yourself and speak about yourself so that you draw people in. So, in our Swarez Foundations program, week 3 is all about positioning, and week 3 covers talking about yourself, who you are, how you help your clients, and writing it in a way that makes clients actually care. Because when somebody comes to a website and they see their artist statement, and it is I, me, a visitor will go, "I cannot relate to this whatsoever." So how you write your bio and how you write about your artist practice has to be written from the point of view or understanding that everybody coming to your site or everybody looking at your social media is only thinking about them, how they can relate to it, how they can connect with it. So I have read thousands of dry toast bios. And so we're talking today about how to show up and be engaging and compelling.
Well, I've got a little something just before we get the rest of the debate going, because I've got a feeling this is going to be a lively one. And that is people talking in the third person. So I'll just clear this up because it's a personal bugbear of mine. As you say, me and Adi, we've read hundreds and hundreds over the years. It's the amount of sites, and I'll have to say probably almost all of them, where an artist will talk about themselves in the third person. So let's go to John Smith watercolors. Now let John Smith be our hypothetical artist for the podcast. So you got a picture of John on the homepage, fantastic. You might have a carousel of images or even a video playing, huzzah. And you see how wonderful the work is, amazing, fantastic. There's a picture of John at his easel and everything else like that. And then you go and click on my work or my portfolio and you have a look at that. You think, oh, it's fantastic. It's actually, I really like that. And there's a bit that says about at the top. And I think if we've all got websites, if you're listening to this or you've got your own art website, there's bound to be an about me somewhere along the line because you've got to tell people about yourself. So you go into that and it says, John Smith was born in Yorkshire, 1954. And I just switch off straight away because that's not how you speak to people. So if I meet you in the street, I go, "Hi, Paula, how are you? What are you up to this week?" And you reply to me, "Yeah, I'm not too bad, Ed. Thanks very much. Yeah, I'm actually running a bit late. Can we chat? Can we catch up another time?" Yeah, fine. Conversation. You don't answer me by going, "Well, Paula is actually running late today, but what she's asked me to say is to tell you that she'd very much like to catch up with you another time." People don't communicate like this. The reason why we talk in a third person is because historically, that's how it's always been done. Because galleries and the people with their silver spoon up their arse and their noses in the air think that that's the posh, nice way to do it because it must be exclusive or make collectors feel like it's special or something like that. No, it isn't. We're in 2026. We have the internet. All our walls have come down. We don't need to disappear up our own buttholes talking about ourselves in the third person. It's ridiculous. That is not how you communicate. If someone has seen how great John Smith's watercolors are and looked on his homepage or seen that he's got a rabbit fighting another rabbit, who doesn't like that? And then wanted to learn a bit more about John, there'll be a nice black and white picture of him looking at the camera or holding a brush in his hand and going, I've got a real passion for wildlife. I've been the watercolorist for 45 years. Brilliant. That's what I want to know. Because suddenly, oh yeah, shock horror, look what happens. I'm getting engaged with John. I feel like I know John. I feel like I'm chatting to him in the street. So if I don't know if we should dispense advice, but we're going to do it anyway because I don't care. If you've got that and your website is currently written in a third person, please, when you've listened to this, go and change it. Change the something is to I am, or I believe, or this is me, or do something where you're talking to somebody as if they're sat right opposite you because your buyers are sat at the other end of your computer screen, if you want to think of it that way, or the other end of your phone or wherever it is, or looking at your socials. They're there. So just talk to them as if they're sat in the same room as you.
Yeah, well, The only thing I've got to add to that is, look, again, and I've said this on some of the previous podcasts, if you're happy to be represented by somebody in a gallery somewhere and just be, 4 or 5 pieces in the corner where John Smith on a piece of paper in this gallery is being read out by somebody. John Smith is a watercolor artist from Yorkshire and he does this. If you're happy with that lot, fine. But ask yourself, who are you paying to represent yourself? Because I'd rather pay myself to represent myself. And if you're doing that, it should be, I am, this is me. Who am I? I'm Ed Swarez. I do abstract art and splash and paint around. And I end up getting quite messy doing it as well.
I do, yeah.
But sometimes I do really complicated stuff as well.
I do.
And do some mad stuff. It's one of those things about, you go into a gallery, is it that you're being told this is X, Y, and Z and they this and they that? Or do you want to represent yourself and that it's your business, or are you happy to have somebody else represent you? Possibly, most of the time, sometimes maybe.
And there's another thing I'll add to that. There's a time and a place for writing in the third person. Yeah, of course. And as Adrian's alluded to, if you're somewhere other where you can't talk about yourself, i.e. not on your website. So let's say you're in that gallery and there's a A4 clip frame on the wall and you have to have something because the gallery owner says, I need some information about you. Then you can put John Smith's born in Yorkshire and all the rest of it. So yeah, of course it has its time and a place, but not on your website. The other thing is, and I just thought about it as you were saying it, the more you can talk about me to somebody else or you to somebody else, the more authentic you become. Now, there's this great word, isn't there? Well, about genuine is a good word, that's a buzzword. Authentic is a buzzword, and there's a lot of it going around, especially in this AI age. All people are rebelling against AI because it's not authentic or genuine. And suddenly these buzzwords become very diluted and they can lose their meaning over time. However, if I bump into you in the street and I ask how you are and you go, do you know what? I had a right rough night's sleep last night and I haven't had anything to eat yet this morning because I'm late getting to the dentist. That's authentic. That is you, your original face, talking to me like a human being. So what better person is there on the planet to talk about what you do than you? And in that way, I just described it. Now, of course, there is some structure. If you're writing about it on your website, you're looking at how to construct your bio, there needs to be some kind of introduction. Who I am. I am John Smith and I live in Yorkshire. Okay, great. We've established that. What about the rest of it? Well, I need some kind of intent. Why am I here? I love painting watercolors of nature because. So what's the reason? I love it because I was brought up here and it's fascinating and movement excites me and the dynamicism of the English countryside. Great, brilliant. So then what? Well, I do it. Watercolors has always been my favorite and I was trained classically with this and that. Great, fantastic. And then what at the end? How do you leave people when you do? And now you can go and view my portfolio because it's going to make you feel amazing. So when you can get your head around talking like this, that to me is genuine. So you're not going into some distant realm or adopting another persona to describe what you're doing. You're just describing what you're doing and the reasons why and the passion that lies behind it. Now, I'm very passionate about opening cans of paint and throwing it around for a living. As Adi just said, that's what I do. That's not fluff and apple pie. That's just fact. Now, whether you choose to accept that as something you want to hang on your wall or not, that's entirely down to you. But I'm not hiding behind any kind of alternate suggestion about what this is. This is what I do. I've got a load of techniques. Brady's developed 95% of them for me over the years and put all that input in to allow us to do some incredible things, as you may know. However, if it's not your thing, it's not your thing, but I don't hide behind that. And I think that's where the authenticity comes from, because you're sticking to the things that drive you to do what you're doing. And the more you hide behind a third person narrative, for want of a better word, that I think the more diluted that becomes, because you sit there for so long thinking about how to describe yourself by not being yourself. No, just talk. Well, was it, I think we've read it recently. Was it Hemingway? I think these are your words, Paula, from some of the text on the swarezart.academy. Please do go check it out because it's one of the things we teach. And Hemingway said, write when you're drunk.
Oh, yeah.
Edit it when you're
Sober. Yeah.
That's really, I've learned that today.
Yeah.
That's a really good one, actually. So just come out with everything. It doesn't matter. Write whatever the hell you want, and then come back the next day and edit it.
Yeah, that's right. No, write your mission statement when you're drunk, but make sure you edit it when you're sober. Yeah, and don't publish it until you're sober.
Definitely don't.
Yeah. No, it's one of those things that I think most artists do have a story of some sorts. There must be a reason why they were steered towards something, gravitated towards whatever it was they generate, whatever they produce. So there has to be a story there somewhere. So why not tell it, and tell it in the most honest way? It might sound a little mad, but get it down on, pen and paper or on notebooks or whatever it is, and then read back through it and think, oh yeah, you might add to it, you might take away from it, but put it out there as being who you are and get that on the website.
I'll add to that as well, because honesty, that's another good buzzword.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of art bios and people writing about themselves, and it feels a bit contrived, and there is something not really quite right about it, or it feels forced. And this might get a little bit controversial now, but one of the things that really bugs me is artists when they list all their accomplishments and achievements. So hear me out, all right? Hear me out.
Listening.
I don't think that should be on an About Me page. If you've done a ton of things like the BP Portrait Awards, or if you've done the RWA ink and drawing competitions, or if you've got work in Bilbao or at the Guggenheim, or you've done 15 different shows across 25 years, I mean, that's amazing, brilliant. It's more than I've ever done, and more than I will ever achieve. Great, brilliant, fantastic. But I'll ask the question, is that really important when you're just talking about who you are and what you do? There'll be a point at which, if somebody needs some kind of justification for either contacting you or about to spend money with you, that doing 20 years worth of curated shows is important enough, that's okay. But give them a link to somewhere, especially if you've got a lot of them, where they can go and read that or download a PDF at their own leisure. I think your bio should be no more than 200 to 300 words. Otherwise, it becomes a short form essay. And let's face it, who's got the time these days to sit and read through all that? Very, very few people do. So great. Get your work, especially if it's in private collections, museums, you've done events, you've done this and that. Have it fine on your site, but stick it somewhere else, that if someone is bothered enough at that point to want to go and look at that, give them a link to go and do it on another page somewhere else. But please be careful about how long this page is, because I've had to list my backstory as a separate page, right? It's a long page because it's quite a story, that journey to getting to where we are now. But it's not important when someone's just reading about why does this dude paint what he does and who's the bloke that makes all the stuff for him, So it just has to be really quite short and to the point, because actually that suits what we do. So keep it reasonable, 200 to 300 words, and put some photos in, please. Please put some photos in, whether it's of your work, or you working, or you get a friend just to take a photo over your shoulder if you're holding a paintbrush, or you're out somewhere sketching, or whatever it may be, or throwing some clay, whatever. Just get some photos on, because a picture tells 1,000 words, doesn't it, all day long? You're very image orientated. If Ed is searching for anything, the very first tab he clicks is images. So and so many people are like this. It's not just about the words, it's also about the images. So you can capture the intent, and you can capture the feeling, you can capture the honesty, you can capture the authenticity of who you are as a person simply by 2 or 3 well-chosen images as well. So it's just as, if not more important than the words that you write to support it.
Picture paints 1,000 words.
Is that what something like that?
That's what it says. Picture paints 1,000 words. Yeah, for me it's looking at images and things like that. Now, one experiment I did do was for Ed to get some headshots for various things that we were photographing and all the rest of it, is I got Ed to read, sort of like part of the way through his bio and various things like that, to get authentic headshots to actually of talking, because one of the great things, and even if you have to photograph yourself, which, we recently let Paula know how to do with a little thing you can buy on Amazon for $7, stick your phone on a tripod and just keep clicking away, and just talk through something, and you'll be surprised what actual natural photographs you'll get out of that. And you might take 300 photographs, and out of that, you'll think, oh, that's really good. I like that. You will find a really good photograph to put out there on your bio about me, who am I, that kind of thing, or even a couple that you could do. Because you might even put something in there that makes you chuckle, when you read it back, you think, oh, yeah, and just getting that genuine sort of chuckle. And yeah, I know it's so hard for a lot of people out there. They go, well, I don't want to put any photographs in my bio because I don't take a good picture. Well, you do if you're talking to somebody and you don't know you're being photographed, I bet you take a great picture. It's that bit about when you're self-realizing that you can't get a good photo out of it. So one of the things I think is quite easy to do is just read something, and just keep taking photographs of yourself. And you will be surprised at how good a photo you can get in. Oh, and one of the other great things, it's a real evener if you need it. Put it in black and white for now. Because sometimes you think, oh my God, no. Right, sepia, black and white, perfect, there we go. And then change it, get back to color at another point. But if it's that bad, just get a picture, even if it's black and white, get it out there.
All very important points. I want to address the photograph issue first, because a lot of times artists feel like their art speaks for themselves. It doesn't speak for itself. Your art needs to have context, but we as artists cannot be separated from our art. It is an offensive idea to think that we could take one of Ed's paintings and go, well, I don't like Ed, but I like his painting, so I'm just gonna pretend he didn't make it. Like, come on. Everything is made by a human being with thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and to try to separate the art from the artist is offensive. So not having photos of yourself with your art, not having photos of yourself on your website doesn't do anything but remove the humanity from the art that you've been making. So I'm not a selfie person, and I had a friend who takes selfies all the time, and while I'm not a fan of that, I am impressed with her ability to take good photos. What I do now when I need to take photos, because it's usually just me here taking photos by myself, is I tell myself a joke. And every photo that you see where I'm smiling or laughing, it's the same joke because it's hilarious and I tell it really well to myself. And it just makes me laugh while I'm taking photos, and it's not never gotten old. So I'm gonna share the joke. Maybe it'll land with other people, maybe it won't. It'll still make me laugh. Two fish are in a tank. One fish turns to the other and says, "How do you drive this thing?" That's the joke. It's awful. It makes me laugh. I am watching two men cringe now. It's a terrible joke. Every time you see a photo of me smiling or laughing or looking natural, I have told that joke, and I've been telling it since 2016. So when a person came to my studio, a news reporter, and took a photo of me for an article, and she told me that joke because I was so tense. And that's just been my go-to for 10 years, that joke. So
This could turn into a joke telling session though. But we won't.
we won't go there. We won't go there. The other thing, 2 points actually that I have to make is marketing is sifting and sorting. So when you show up authentically, you are gonna turn people off. That is amazing. That's amazing. Bye. Go away, right? You can be the juiciest peach in the world and somebody will still hate peaches or be allergic to peaches. You want to show up authentically, so you are divisive. Controversial, not necessarily, but divisive, yes, right? I am very, very clear about who I am and what I stand for if you go to my own personal website, because I don't want the people I don't want. And so I'm very clear about my values. I'm very clear about who I am. I'm very clear that I'm a person, not a corporation. So the other issue is when we talk about ourselves in the first person, we are eliminating that corporation barrier. And in 2026, a lot of corporations are really awful. Now, you can run a corporation as we do, but we are still people. Can you find the person behind McDonald's or Coke or any of those big brands? It's really hard because they change CEOs like they're playing roulette or whatever. They're just like, oh, CEO for 6 months, bye. So when we talk about ourselves in the first person, we are putting the humanity back in our art. When we show up in photos all over our website, not just on the about page, we are putting the humanity back in our art, and we are removing the corporation. We're letting people have as close a connection to us as they can have without actually being in our space. So it's a really good thing to be who you are. As I think most of our parents said to us, go and be yourself and the right people will like you. It's a really good thing to show up and just be authentic. I don't think there's a better word than authentic, unfortunately, but just to show up and say what we stand for and all of that, is it adds to our art. It gives it context. It puts it in the mental space you're in the time period that you've been creating it in, and lets people connect with it. When people buy art, they're connecting with us and the art. They need reasons to come back and take a second look, and the bio does that. I think what Ed said about splitting your about page up is a really good thing. Have your awards, but have it on a separate page, or your accomplishments or whatever. It just adds to confidence that you're a safe person to buy from and you're a great person to buy from. And the experience is going to be a positive one. So that's a really fantastic piece of advice.
Can you imagine if politicians were authentic and genuine? Oh, how much more confidence we'd have
Would that be nice?
in any political system, pretty much at any point in time on the planet, if they spoke real words to real people and backed them up with what they said they were going to do. Because that's all a first person bio is. When you talk about yourself, you're showing up, you're saying, this is what I do, this is how I do it. And when you buy from me, I'm going to give you an unforgettable experience because everything is about you. And what I say on that page is what you're going to get. So imagine if every party manifesto delivered on what they were going to say. Because and we all laugh uncontrollably because we know it's absolute horseshit because no government's ever going to do that for one reason and another. But that's the power of what authenticity is, because that same principle applies to you and how you show up online. When you have that voice, that original tone that only you have, and the way that you speak and the way you put words together and how depth of passion you feel about what it is that you do and why you do it, when that goes across to the people that resonate with it, you've won. And if we had that in a political system, how much different would the world be?
But it's in that would be amazing that somebody would come to your website and go, well, that's a breath of fresh air. They're actually,
Yeah.
they're being genuine and authentic. But isn't that a sad world we live in?
When that's the
When somebody says,
Yeah.
oh, well, that's a breath of fresh air, they're being very authentic and genuine. Yeah, and it is so sad, but I think it's the only way to be these days. It's just gone so far maddening. We all know that they tell us it's the best washing up liquid ever. And then you get it and you go, well, that's not the best washing up liquid ever. Oh, that's going to be the greatest cupcake you've ever eaten. And you eat it and go, well, it's all right, but it's not the greatest one I've ever eaten. All these people that promise everything and give nothing. And I think just sometimes just to say, look, this is it. This is what we do. This is how it is. Seeing it all on the website and reading about it is about as honest and genuine as you can get, isn't it?
And the way it seems to me, all of this is just for one reason, that is the word connection. Because as human beings, as a species, we are all about connections, whether it's with your family, if you have children, whether it's friends, we have the friends we do because we have a connection to them or we like them or there are common interests. And when we're with our friends, we don't show up online how we talk with our friends, do we? So at some point, do you modify that when you show up in places that aren't your website? So I'm steering this towards not being on website now. So we're talking socials. When you turn up on social media, how do you want to talk then? Do you talk like you've come out of a meeting for the last half an hour talking about health and safety legislation? Or do you talk about, I've just had 7 bottles of Stella and I've just come back calling from the pub on 11 o'clock on a Saturday night? Where's your tone of voice then when you appear on social media? Do you keep it in the same way that you speak on your site? Is it less extreme? Is it more extreme? Where is it? What's really great about social media that we found is you can play about with that and then see what kind of reaction you get. Of course, a lot depends on what you're posting, of course, and we found over many years that some kind of visual works better than others, and people seem to watch videos more than they look at static images. That's fine, but even videos of us stretching canvases can get better views than the actual finished thing. It just depends. There's no rhyme or reason to half of this stuff. However, how you talk about it, whether that be to a camera or the text that goes underneath whatever you're posting, can also greatly affect how long people stay on that and whether they choose to follow you or give you a like or whatever other interaction you're looking for. So having an appreciation that things can be slightly different on social media accounts and that you've got an opportunity to modify how you speak, what you speak about, whether it's an extension of your morals and principles as a human being, whether you want to talk about a subject that you're particularly passionate in, whether you want to have a rant and a rave about something. These are all things that you can do, but it's important to know that you're probably going to get different reactions because of that. So it's always something I like to play about with. I don't write a huge amount with every post because, again, like so many other things, people just they haven't got the time to sit there and read 500 words about what you've just posted. However, being fairly clear and concise, this is a progress shot. It's got red and orange on it. It's for a commission. You can find your next commission and piece of awesome happiness at, and there's a link to swarezart.com, and there's 5 good high-ranking hashtags. It's a well-taken photograph. It might be slightly enhanced in its color. It's 9:16 because that fills up a phone. You know, it's not a square one because I want to fill up everybody's screen as much as... So there are basics you can do, but at all points in time, the website goes on there. There's always a contact button, and there's just 2 or 3 sentences about what this is. And that's probably as basic, if I use a word, as probably you need to get. But over on top of that, feel free to bolt on whatever you want. You might get some really cool reactions. You might get something that, you know, gets a ton of views or a ton of likes you didn't even expect. It's a good place to have an experiment.
It's also really good to practice doing what they would call an elevator pitch as well. So I do a lot of in-person networking and standing up in front of a group and saying, "Hi, I'm Paula. I do XYZ." Sort of summarizing your business down to 2 sentences or 30 seconds. It's a really good thing for an artist to practice that too. "Hi, I'm John Smith. I paint watercolors that share the deep magic of the Yorkshire countryside and expose the secret underbelly of, I don't know, grass." So, like, practicing that also helps because when you go on social media, then you can just say, for those of you who don't know me, I'm John Smith, blah, 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 blah. It's a good thing to get comfortable with the words that you use. So there is a level of consistency. Yes, you can experiment on social media. Yes, you can play around so you get immediate feedback. But then that needs to go back to your bio on your website and your about page and maybe tweak it as you go. It's not a one and done. I consider websites to be living, I don't want to say documents, but certainly living business assets or business tools that you can adjust as you go. I mean, Ed, you didn't just make your website in 2007 and go, "Well, that's good. Awesome. I don't have to do it again for at least, 30 years." No, you're constantly updating it. So,
It's had 4 major changes in 12 or 13 years.
And about 1,000 different tweets
Oh
now.
my
But
God.
this is one of the things I was saying earlier about if you are really, and I'm sure there are some creatives and artists out there that are absolutely scared to death to take a photograph of themselves and put it on their website. I am sure there are many. If you really are, just like I said, take a black and white photograph and put it on there. It's temporary until you start to get that courage and you start to feel more relaxed about it, to take more photographs, to then replace it with a color photograph or a different photograph, and so on and so forth. And I think that's part of, again, with what Paul is saying about social media, you have to adjust and tweak. Now, we were talking about this earlier, and that the whatever your brand is, your logo, whatever you're using, must be the same right the way across everything. So you can be found visually with that brand or logo straight away. Oh, I know that's Swarez because there's a red splash. I know Swarez, it's written Swarez. I see that on Instagram. I know that's Swarez, so on and so forth. So that it can be recognized right the way across social media. But yes, I do believe you have to tweak those platforms to certain things. The size of the photograph needs to be slightly different for Instagram because of the way it is, and TikTok, so on and so forth. And the mannerisms and what you say needs to be ever so slightly different. But don't stray too far from the truth about what it is, because if you're showing something visual and you go, "How amazing is that?" You want to see what reaction people are going to get. You might need to say, "How amazing is that?" on Instagram. You might have to say, "How incredible does this look on TikTok?" You're saying the same thing, just in a slightly different way. And, so it's that kind of thing. But I think part of it is that making sure the brand or logo is the same right the way across social media, and those sentences, for want of a better word, stock sentences that you have, or the foreshortened stuff that you've thought about in your head for this social media platform, that website, so on and so forth, and having those. And again, like Ed said, when you're doing a show somewhere, that perhaps you have to have that plaque that states, you know, John Smith is a watercolorist from Yorkshire who enjoys purple. Pretty much so. I'm gonna have to look him up because I'm gonna go and buy one of his pieces. He sounds, honest John sounds great, didn't he? Yeah, fantastic. Yeah.
His fighting hares and his
Yes, that's so. Yeah, that's the one.
his predominantly
Yeah.
wild and rustic look of the Yorkshire countryside. I'm
Yeah.
really warm to John.
Yeah.
Maybe I should register John Smith watercolors and just ironically.
But make sure he's a cheese connoisseur as well. So
Okay.
there we go. Okay, so I think that we'll wrap this up with the thought that yes, it is vulnerable to be authentically you. What if somebody doesn't like you? We've covered that. I think it was episode 2 of haters and trolls and everything else. But showing up authentically as you means that when the right people find you and they hear your voice or read your voice on social media and then read it on your website and then maybe even have a call with you to talk about a commission, you are the same person from start to finish. So the people that you hear on this podcast, if you were to call up Ed and 80, they would be exactly the same. I've talked with them over the years. They are exactly the same as they are in this podcast. If you call me up, I won't answer because I don't take phone calls. But uh, but it's the same thing, right? If somebody was to have a Zoom call with me or whatever, I'm the same person I am in this podcast because that takes a lot less effort to be authentically you than to think about, oh my God, who's the character I need to be for this? Who is the person, right? That's it. It's a lot less effort. Yeah. Let's be efficient and spend our effort on making art than pretending to be somebody we're not. So there we go.
Really good point.
Awesome. So we want to thank everybody for listening to the Three Artmigos podcast. I forgot the title of our podcast again. You can listen to us on Spotify, Amazon, Audible, Apple Podcast, and wherever your favorite podcast shows are at. And of course, on YouTube, both on the Swarez Art YouTube channel and the Swarez Art Academy YouTube channel. If you want to learn more about how to work with us, go to swarezart.academy today. And you can check out Ed's art at swarezart.com. How often can I say Swarez? Everything will be in the show notes. We thank you for listening, and we will see you in the next episode.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.